When it comes to strength training for cycling performance, I think it would be hard pressed to find anybody who didn't say that squats are an integral part of a cyclist training regimen. But many of us are jumping ahead into barbell squatting variations, specifically barbell back squats. But in fact, the barbell is a very awkward tool to use and doesn't offer you the max benefits in order to help you to be able to perform better on the bike. Today's video, I'm going to show you 4 different variations of the squat that don't involve the barbell at all that will help you be able to ride better, move better, and improve your capacity for performance and recovery. Let's get into it. All right, so the way we progress here for strength training for performance is we start with body weight first, then we start with very low loads. We're looking at postures and positions, and only after that will we start to look to heavy stuff. This is where you've got to be able to understand the research is great and all. The research is easily 5 to 10 years behind what those of us that have been practicing this for many, many years, decades understand and know is that, yes, that is important, but there's a process we've got to go through. So first we learn how to move your own body. Now, a lot of you will think, oh, we're learning how to squat, so we're just going to do body weight squats and go down. No, 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 no. We've got to make it so that you have to get the most possible out of your squatting. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a diver's squat. And this is really challenging for most cyclists. And the reason I really like starting people here instead of the body weight squats, you're just kind of hanging out there and going in, you're not paying attention. If you're coming to work with me, if you're here watching this video, we're here for performance for cycling. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the diver squat. It's going to look like this. We're going to take one hand over the other. You're going to bring the arms up as much overhead as possible as you can, keeping the elbows straight and keeping your ribs down. So today, this is about my range of motion, right? So I have to keep my ribs stacked over my pelvis. If I wanted to, I could easily do this, but now I've lost all that midsection stiffness, and that's not going to serve you for developing performance. We've got to get stiff areas, stiff tissues to begin to unwind and learn how to relax a little bit and allow the muscles that need to work to learn how to work. This is where stretching may be nice, but it doesn't solve the problem. You've got to teach the muscles and the tissues to work in balance. So one hand over the other, we would change these set to set. We're going to start off here. I'm going to keep my ribs over my hips. I'm pushing my hands together from my lats, and I'm going to sit straight down, keeping my feet flat. And then I'm going to push the ground away from the glutes. I'm trying to keep my back straight, neutral, and I'm trying to move through the hips while pushing my hands together. Now, some of you may find that it creates tension in through the neck, and that is one of the things that we're going to try and work on. So if that's the case, all we do is we don't go as far overhead, we bring you forward a little bit, where we are able to relax the shoulder blades down, and we still push the hands together because we're trying to teach you that core stiffness. And we want to eventually work on unwinding the shoulder blades, the trapezius, get the mid back to fire, which will take the stress off the neck because those muscles are hanging on for dear life. And it really allows you to progress much faster. It takes time to move well with these, but that is the point. You will get really strong and move way better and progress faster if we start off in teaching things how to work well together. So this is where we will start most people. If you're a beginner at strength training, and this is really important that we're paying attention to the postures and positions. And if you want to begin loading, then we would move on to our next squat variation that we'll talk about here in just a moment. Variation is going to be what I call, or what I learned from my coach, as a potato sack squat. Now, I don't particularly love this, but what it does is it allows me to get cyclists who are very leg heavy, and this is a big problem that we've had proliferated with the lift heavy stuff movement, is people are focused on deadlifts and squats. I don't really need upper body, but your upper body is taking a beating, you're not able to breathe well, you're creating issues with your movement, with your neck. So I don't really love this one, but it is one that I have used and will continue to use for those who are really leg dominant and need to learn how to begin to use their upper bodies better. So the potato sack squat, we need a wall ball. You can use a sandbag if you want, but it needs to be up off the floor enough that you can pick it up without rounding your back. And that's one of the reasons I don't really love it, is it allows you to get into a kyphotic curvature or rounding the chest forward. So again, not my favorite, as I've said 3 times now, but it is a variation. So the way we would do this is we would come down like you're trying to pick up a bag of mulch or a big heavy bag of potatoes, pick the ball up from the bottom, shoulder blades back and down, proud chest, and then we stand, and then we let the ball or the sandbag drop. And now that's a really important part of this exercise when you're first learning, because when we're doing these, the whole point, again, like I said, it's someone who's very leg dominant. They haven't learned how to incorporate their upper body or move well from there. So we want to teach them and focus on upper body position, shoulder blades back and down, and then drive straight up and drop. Why don't we come down with the ball? Well, if we already know they're not very good at using their upper torso or their arms, what's going to happen when they come down is they're going to round their back. And now we've just taken them backwards. We're not actually building strength, resiliency, and performance. We're reinforcing really poor movement patterns. We're here. These are the squat variations for cycling performance. That's what we want out of this. So having something you can drop, it can also be a bag of mulch. It can be a bag. I had somebody do it with a bag of cement, a 25-kilo bag of cement. It doesn't need to be that heavy. And people are very surprised when you're coming down here and you get that good posture, that good position. A lot of people get to here and they go, well, I can't come down without rounding my back. Bring the ball, bring the sandbag off the floor, roll up some towels, put something underneath. If we can't get down there, then we can't train it, right? And this is where I like our next variation of the squats way more, because it begins to get the upper body involved. It gets you to load the hips. And then the second variation after that will be even better. But this is where I would generally start after we finish the divers squats. All right, this is a variation I like much better than that first one, because it really helps us begin to address some of the issues and common postures that we see and we're trying to unwind from being on the bike as a cyclist or triathlete. And really, the bear hug or the bear hug crush squat is something that is highly underrated. It's something that it took me actually 3 or 4 athletes doing it for a month or two to really acknowledge and realize the deep benefits that it had for helping people get out of a kyphotic curvature, getting them to move better from the shoulder blade and being able to keep their lats active in a way that would really help them. Now, the bear crush or the bear hug squat. So how do we do this? I prefer wall balls. I think that these are fantastic. Now, some of you may not have a wall ball. I would not recommend doing this with a dumbbell or with a kettlebell, just because it doesn't give you the right feedback. So the way this works is we want to hold the ball. We're going to try and cross the wrists here. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to pull our shoulder blades down and back. So we're getting the lats activated. So notice my elbows are coming down and in as I do that. And I'm trying to create a jelly donut, if you will, or a hole in the middle of the ball. I'm not just pulling this way. I'm trying to pull and keep my shoulder blades up and then pull them straight back. I don't want to come up with the shoulder blades and I don't want to come down. So we're going to pull straight back. And from here, I'm going to keep my rib cage and pelvis stacked over one another. And I'm going to drop straight down, crushing the ball and push back up. Now this variation I tend to use infrequently, just because it's very upper body dominant. It doesn't allow us to load the hips quite as much. But if you have a really kyphotic curvature and you're finding that you're rounding your back too much when you do the potato sack squats, or you're really struggling and getting a good upright posture, this might be our first stop to look at, because it's really trying to get you to learn how to move from the shoulder blades forward and back, right? Maybe you're not that great at doing the soul train dance, right? We want to try and get you to move forward and back. And this in and of itself, with those first 2 athletes, it really alleviated a lot of the pressure and pain that they were getting in their neck and their shoulders because they were coming up. So it really taught them to pull back, get their lats engaged, and then we progress them from there. But it's a good variation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it just because it's not a great variation. It is a good variation. It's better than the potato sack squats, which you just saw a minute ago. But really you need somewhere between 5 and 10 kilos or between 12 and 20 pounds for the wall ball. And it should be a wall ball. You can use a slam ball as well, but they're much smaller. That would actually change the exercise and make it more hip dominant, but there's only so much load that you can actually carry for those. All right, so this variation of the squat is one that tends to be neglected. I know I did the first 3 or 4 years that I was working as a trainer, because I kind of foo-fooed it. I'm like, it's kind of like too easy of a squat. But when you do it right, the goblet squat with a kettlebell or with a dumbbell or with a weight plate is a fantastic way of teaching you how to squat and getting the full body coordination and stiffness that you need to protect the spine, move through the hips, keep the upper body involved as it needs to, and to really clean up a lot of issues that we have as cyclists. So I really like the kettlebell variation for 2 reasons. One, we can get the bell down. We can get you to rip apart and essentially pull apart, which activates the lats. And the lats can help us stabilize the back as well. They've got a really big connection in through the back in the thoracolumbar fascia, down in through here. It's a big white triangle or diamond, in the lower back. And it can really help us as cyclists because we tend to have tight lats. Lats internally rotate as well as bring the arm down to the side, adduct the upper arm. So this is a way that we can get you to actually externally rotate and start to get a little bit of antidote, if you will, to what we get on the bike already and have issues that causes a kyphotic curvature. Now, here's the thing with the goblet squat. It is deceptively challenging when you do it right. So a lot of people just pick up the weight, they slap it onto their chest, whoops, and it connects to the microphone here. So they just slap it onto their chest, and as they're keeping it here, they just kind of squat and go through it. Well, that's certainly one way to do it, but we're here for performance. So how we do things matter. So let's try reaching long through the elbows. Oh, my core kicked on. Interesting. I can feel the weight in my feet. I've got to keep myself stacked, reaching long through the elbows. Now I'm going to pretend like I hit a button on the elevator and do the horrible 1970s dance move of going down on the elevator and coming back up. Now, when you do it this way, you feel serratus anterior, obliques, core, glutes, quadriceps, bottom of my feet, and it really makes it a hard challenge. It gets too hard to be able to hold it here. You notice you're starting to round. Cool story, bro. Let's turn this around and make it a little bit easier. You can do the same thing and keep going with the same weight, but get your reps done with great range of motion, great technique. So this is why I love the kettlebell. It's easy. All right, you're getting too tired. You're starting to round forward. Flip that sucker upside down and let's keep going with the 8 kilos. Whereas most people think, oh, I've got to go down and weight. So this is to me, the Swiss Army knife and where I build so much power and capabilities. So the national team that I work with here, as well as a number of the professional road cyclists, we're goblet squatting. We're goblet squatting with 16, maybe 20 kilos, and I'm kicking their butt and they're leaving. They're like, how are you doing this with such a light weight? Like, what wizardry is this? One of them called me the Harry Potter of the weight room. I was like, cool, I'll take it. Not really a big fan, but maybe I'll dress up for Halloween for that. So the goblet squat is a fantastically underrated tool. Yes, it's not what we think of when we think of squatting, but it really helps you to be able to build the capabilities, the movement efficiency to be able to move well and do many things on the bike. And I've had some riders, we've gone 3 years. So the pro riders, we're now actually getting into the year 3 and we're using banded goblet squats, which we actually have a video up above here. So you can check that out on the YouTube channel. So the goblet squats, if we can get you to here from the potato sack squats or from the diver squat, you'll probably get a lot out of this for 2 or 3 years, and we're talking about strength training year round. So even when we're doing heavy or max strength, we can really load these up and challenge you in a way that serves you immensely and can really help you get better back body expansion with your breathing, get the pelvis to move a little bit better, get your breathing in line, I already said that, but in line as well as back body expansion, and get you to load the hips in a way and the upper torso in a way that's really gonna serve you on the bike. And if you think about it, when you have the kettlebell here and we're riding, if we just take that position and take you down, it very much looks like the time trial position. So whether you're doing a time trial or you just want to get better and move or feel better when you're down on the handlebars, this can be a great exercise. Now, it's not sport specific because of that, it's position specific, but getting you to learn to externally rotate and really start to build and bolster your shoulders. The goblet squat is a fantastic full body exercise that offers you all the benefits. And for most of you guys and gals, this is going to be your bread and butter, believe it or not, and it will get you fantastic results if you do it, paying attention to how you do it, and make sure that you are just executing it well.